For people who don't know what No Man's Sky is, it is a very ambitious space exploration game that kind of took the gaming world by storm, if only because people kind of projected these maybe unrealistic expectations on what this game was going to wind up being, including David Katzmaier.
So excited.
He's very excited to play
I'm
it.
taking off right after the show, running home and downloading it because the Steam is actually available now. See on Twitter, people
Yes.
are asking people to go to their houses and download the game for them, so it's ready when they get
Oh,
home
really?
from work. Yeah.
Okay. It's not that big of a game.
It's going
so
to be
you're
one of
very
those
quick.
weekends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been playing it for about 15 hours. It's different. I think for a lot of people, it's a game that they weren't expecting. And again, that is not that's not throwing shade at the developers. I think this game kind of got away from everybody. And once that big sort of E3 demo happened a couple years ago, it kind of blew everyone's minds and completely changed the perception of what this game actually is and what people kind of wanted it to be. So I get that, and that's understandable. At its core, No Man's Sky is really just a resource survival game, inventory management game. I know, that's like the trio kiss of death right there. There are moments in this game that you will literally not believe what you're seeing.
Yeah.
But after a while, you kind of understand what this game's about. I feel terrible saying this because I'm sitting next to someone who is very excited to play it for the first time.
I am still excited regardless of how many times you tell me
Yes,
that.
which is great.
Yeah.
And you should be because the first couple hours are great.
I will author my own disappointment.
Yeah, no, like I think you'll like
I'm
it.
so sad on Monday when I come in.
It might be
just gonna
upgrades for you, though. The
crawl
PC
in.
version might take advantage of better specs.
Yeah, they're usually really similar.
That might be, but the game might look better.
Yeah.
That might be it, though. It's not going to change gameplay. It's not going to bring you to a level where you're like, oh, this game offers a different feature set on PC.
At least not at the beginning. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if there's modding or whatever, but at the end of the day, these guys are also saying they're going to improve aspects of this game. One of the big
Absolutely.
selling points for me was like, it's a community, it's a vibe, basically like a big Mama Porg, even though you can't actually, interact with people in
Right.
the environment or whatever. There's so many cool things about the game that made me really intrigued. I mean, it's obviously the biggest thing is every planet you go to is spontaneously created for you,
Which is kind of cool, and
Right.
and for me that like the reason I'm gonna go back and play some of that again this weekend is because I just like rolling the dice. I
Yeah.
just like seeing what the game spits out. It's something technically no one else will ever see, so that's kind of fun. Just the notion of like, hey, the math that this game is relying on
Right.
allows it to create stuff that odds are no one else will ever see.
So you use
That's
the
kinda
analogy
fun.
of dice. So it's like, you roll a 6, it's a blue sky. You roll a 1, it's a yellow sky.
Pretty
and
much.
on down the line. So is part of your beef that there's not enough dice? There's not
Yeah.
enough stuff that can be different about each world? Like, is it too similar despite the fact that they say there's, 19 quadrillion possible worlds that people can get to?
And that's, yes, simply put, like, yes, that is the complaint. It's because the asset pool that this game continually draws from doesn't allow, and I get it, like, it is an achievement what these guys have done at Hello Games. Like, this
Right.
is a technical achievement. At the same time, though, because of that and what they did, the game does not allow for the variance that people kind of project, where it's like, oh, this could be anything. Like, it's just not that. There's different terrain. The first time I landed on like what was mostly a water planet was
Right.
pretty cool for
Yeah,
me.
that's cool.
So I think like that's what you got to kind of keep in the back of your head, because after you play for about 5, 6, 7
You're
hours,
going to see the same kind of stuff?
you get it. You understand like what's happening here. Every now and then I'm like, oh, look at that.
Yeah.
There's this here.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Okay.
Again, the sense of scale for me is the best part of this game. This game treats you like you are this small atomic little thing in a gigantic, seemingly endless universe. So for me,
Yeah.
that sense of scale, they nail it. They nail it.
It's so interesting because that's like the thing that video games kind of have done recently. Like I always think of Witcher as like
Okay.
the largest game world I've
Sure.
ever experienced, where you're like all of a sudden you're in this other island that's huge,
Right.
And some dudes went out and made all of that by hand.
Right, so-
Every little turn on the trail as you're riding along, and even the DLC is gigantic on
Right.
that game. And it's so big that I still haven't explored every part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, and it seems like every time you go, there's something new and different.
Right.
With this, it's obviously infinite, basically.
Yeah, it's essentially infinite. And when you look at something like The Witcher, you're right. Every square inch of that map was drawn
Yeah.
and rendered and put together and preconceived.
And it's gigantic.
And it's gigantic. Where No Man's Sky, it's sort of just like, hey, here's this, blender we have. Let's stop it and see where it stops. And that's kind of like the best way I can explain it to people.
Harold's wondering if you guys think, because if it would be too taxing on PCs, which you're to discover, did you think it was taxing when you were playing on PS4?
There's a couple times where you hit some pretty significant frame rate dips. PC,
Even
it's
on
going to be
console?
fine. It's going to be fine. It's not, it taxes the PS4 hardware, and I think at points you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe Neo will do a better job with No Man's Sky. But I don't think the way to think about it is like, oh, this is going to run super smooth on PC either. I don't think the sort of like ecology within the game is open to like variable, sort of improvements just based on the hardware running it. I don't know. That's sort of the vibe we get. There's a lot of like texture drawing that you'll probably wind up seeing in the PS4 version that maybe you won't see in the PC stuff. I don't know yet.
And it's, as with all, usually a PC release, there's going to be bugs.
Sure.
And
there's
with a
bugs in the
game this
PS4 version,
vast,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I'm not expecting a totally smooth weekend
Yeah.
because obviously there's that huge day zero patch,
Right.
which I think is baked into the Steam.
It's definitely baked
version,
into Steam,
So like I don't have to worry about that. But it's still not. I don't think it's going to be the smoothest experience, and I don't expect most day one games to be perfect.
Yeah,
They always patch them. So
I'm definitely curious to hear what you're saying Monday morning,
Yeah.
for sure.
There's a few people asking about availability for the game. They are wondering about if it was available on early access for Steam
No.
and consoles, which is PS4
Yeah,
right now?
just PS4 and PC. That's
no
all. it
Xbox
will-
announced, right?
Yeah, I would. That's gonna probably
Ouch.
not be a thing.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy. I couldn't. I remember reading that, going, why? That's.
Yeah, I don't know. You can infer what you want. Maybe Sony paid for some of that development. That's just
Yeah.
speculation.
And Harold followed up. He's wondering if it's essentially a pretty walking sim.
You're walking for some of it in the beginning, but then it's kind of like a flying sim for a lot of the rest of that game.
Warping sim.
Yeah, what's that?
Warping sim.
Warping sim.
Yeah.
Warp cell sim.
Nice.
Yep. So there's No Man's Sky. If there's anything else or no?
Yeah, do you guys think it was overhyped? One of the people earlier in our chat was wondering why are we doing so much news about No Man's Sky, and it was a very big driver of news this week. But do you think
course.
over the course of the last 3 years it was overhyped versus what you were playing now?
Definitely. Everything's overhyped. So let's not, it's not exclusive to No Man's Sky. Everything is overhyped. It's the things that supersede expectation that really are the remarkable things, right? Most things are overhyped. Suicide Squad. So I feel like you have to really take it for what it's worth. Like this game, I think it's more remarkable that this game had that reaction. And again, like we talked about earlier, you can't fault anyone for it. Like you can't look at the developers and be like, you guys made something that seemed too cool.
You should have talked down your game. Man.
Yeah.
I can't believe
you
you
shouldn't
did
have
that.
enjoyed the
shouldn't have been that
3-year
awesome.
roller
Yeah.
coaster that was, leading up to the release. No, was it overhyped? Absolutely.
So you're saying not game of the year?
It is. I do not believe that will be game of the year.
Really?